All right, welcome on to this Q&A. Again, Warner, welcome on to this Q&A. Question came up. It was a question more like, I would say, an observation than a question. And that is, I was speaking about this before. It comes up a lot, but doesn't really matter. But the point is, this question came up, like, what, someone wants to convert, what's the rabbinical court going to ask them? They try and brush them off, so to speak. Someone just told me, a case where someone was over the age of bar mitzvah, the age of, let's say, 13, non-Jewish, needs to go through conversion, being raised as a Jew, but not actually, not actually Jewish. The person was adopted, right? Let's just say the person was adopted, so have to go through conversion. So 10 years later, because of other factors, they now start a formal conversion. So you say, okay, now what does the Beis Din say? But what does the Beis Din? I'll say better. What does the Beis Din? What did the Beis Din ask? One of the first things the Beis Din asked was, why did it take you so long? In other words, there's a 10-year gap from the time the person, is adopted to actually, coming in front of a Beis Din, right? Actually, making a formal declaration that they want to convert, right? So someone tells me, well, like, why they ask that? Why they ask the question? In other words, you want to know, why I want to convert, that I could hear, or what's your interest? You're doing it for marriage, you're doing it for, any ulterior motive, which obviously would be forbidden. So someone's a bit miffed, let's say, for lack of a better term, why would they ask that question? Why would they ask, like, what took you so long? Like, what have you been doing over the last 10 years? Now, interesting enough, I asked the same question. That was one of the questions I asked, and that's how this came up. So someone said, like, it's a little bit strange. Why would you ask that question? I said, because someone, fine, someone's adopted the age of 13. Very good. I'm not going to say straight away, they're going to start becoming religious and this and that. Okay, they're probably going through other things, which this person had. Okay. There are other issues along the way. Good. But 10 years have gone by. 10 years, is not a small amount of time. Now, if you explain the story, this happened, the other thing happened. They moved around a lot. They were into it. They weren't into it. Bad experiences, whatever, life throws at a person. If a person will say, yeah, I've been interested in Judaism since, 2004. Well, that's great. We're in 2024. There's, according to secular calendar. Yeah, it's 20 years. A 20-year difference. Oh, I couldn't move. Oh, spouse I was married to didn't want to convert. Right? They have reasons, right? They have reasons. But a rabbinical court, a Beis Din, if there's a tremendous gap, in time, they will ask the question. I mean, one of the questions they ask, why do you want to convert? And how long you've been interested, let's say, in converting. So then the Beis Din is going to get a feel for, it was very recent, or, whatever the time frame is. Whatever the time frame is. Now, if there's a long gap, there's a long gap. Someone could say, I was really interested in COVID hit, and I never got really started after COVID, even though, COVID's, 4 years ago. or whatever. But things can happen in life. Good. So obviously, Basin, understands that. But if someone, has been interested in converting, 10 years, 15 years, they're going to have a story or something, why they can convert. Doesn't mean they're going to convert straight away, right? Why have they not converted? Now, it could be, again, could be a money issue. Could be they couldn't move. Could be, I know someone was ready to convert, COVID hit, took them longer, right? Took them, a couple of years longer, or more, more than a year longer, right? Because everything was shut down. Okay. Basin's going to understand that. But they're going to, it's a legitimate question. 100% it's a legitimate question because it's a major gap. If someone's been in the process for a few years, they've been learning this and that, and they have reasons why, they couldn't move or whatever, whatever it may be, fine. That's within the realm of reality. But someone who's been in the process for like 25 years, I mean, I've heard stories. I've definitely heard stories. But, that's an obvious question. That's not a discriminatory practice by Basin. They want to know. They want to know what you've been doing the last 20 years. You've been so interested, this and that. But some people, may have got sidetracked. That happens. Other things in life happen. Person gets sick. Person can get very sick. That takes time. Recovery. And I mean, there are a lot of things. A lot of things that that can happen. But if someone's been in the process for a long time, let's say, and they haven't converted, Basin is going to ask the question. They want to see like what's going on. What's stopping the person? Because if they've been interested for so long, it should have gone forward, right? Yeah, depending on the time frame. So they're going to ask that question. That's not while they're nosy to be nosy, or like that's an obnoxious question. Not an obnoxious question. It's kind of funny because I asked the same question straight away. So I said, well, this is a 13-year period. Okay. So I understand, things can happen. Person's younger, developing, getting used to a new country and all kinds of different things. Okay. They're young adult now. They're in the mid-20s. They're not 13 anymore. So what happened? So what happened during that time? Okay, so someone laid out a picture of what happened. Good. But the Basin asked the same question. I'm not saying, I'm God's gift to the earth over here. It's an obvious question. It's an obvious question, and someone's going to have to come up with an answer. Like, life takes us funny places. Things, we least expect happen. Things we never planned for happen. Right? You got to plan for the unexpected. Okay. Yeah. Things can happen. Would I have thought after being in Israel for 13 years, I would have lost all my money, traveled all around the world, and come back, been on 2 continents in 3 years? Never. Not like I signed up for it, but that's what happened. Right? That's what happened. I left, I came back, which never happens. Most people leave, never come back to Israel. In the last 30 years, I count on, one hand. I know of a few families went, left Israel, the big family came, and came back. Most people leave, they don't come back. Usually they don't come back. Right, unless they're extenuating circumstances. Okay. But are these things expected? I don't think they're expected. Definitely not expected, and no one's signing up for it necessarily. But it's what happened. Life can take different turns. Okay. But if a Basin sees like there's a tremendous gap, right? Preparing everybody here, anyone who wants to convert, if there's a tremendous gap in time, and a person, they're gonna ask the question, how long have you been interested in converting? Okay, what happened before? Right? If it's a small gap, or someone can say, yeah, I've been interested. Now, finally, like getting my feet wet, finally, like really learning, whatever, I'm taking my time. Okay. Right? They'll hear that. But there has to be a story. Obviously, there's going to be a story. if there's a big gap, but that is a normal question, right? Oh, people come and say, oh, Basin has no right to ask. Of course they have a right. They absolutely have a right to ask. 20 years go by, you've been interested in conversion. Why in the world did you convert? If you were that serious. Because they want to see a person, it's going to be mysterious nefesh. It's going to be moser nefesh, self-sacrifice. They want to see. They want to see what's the person putting on the table. What are they going to give to the Jewish people? What are they going to do? Where are they holding? 20 years is a long time. It's a long time. Even 5 years. 5 years can be a long time. Person saying, listen, I lost my job. I couldn't move. Okay, these are legitimate things. But Basin is going to ask that, right? People should understand. They will ask the question. And it's not, oh, they're being nosy. They're trying to, put this on me, put that. No, they have a legitimate question. And the legitimate question is, what have you been doing the last 10 years? Right? I sat in Basin, many years ago. My rabbi wasn't even involved with converts, and someone, looked like a Satmar Chassid, been going around Europe for, 10 years. And finally, and basically, it didn't work. He was going around collecting money for himself. So when the community told him, listen, you want to do this, you want to be a Jew, very good. You have to go to Israel, you got to go to Jerusalem, you have to convert. So Basin asked him, one of the questions I asked him is, how long have you been interested in conversion? What have you been doing? He says, yeah, I've been going around Europe in different places for the last 10 years. So why didn't you convert? Forget they didn't like what he answered. That's a whole other issue, right? But for 10 years, okay, I understand it, except for, let's say, England and France, it's a lot harder to convert, in Europe, a lot of communities, don't do conversion, or it's much harder to convert, whatever it may be. 10 years is a long time. And all three rabbinic court judges asked the same question. 10 years? What have you been doing for 10 years? How in the world haven't you converted? Why haven't you converted? So we went through this whole story, whatever. It didn't sound good, right? Let's just say it didn't sound good. But that's an obvious question. You're going around, you're different communities, going here, going there, right? You look like a Jew, you haven't converted. Why haven't you converted? I mean, it's not that hard. 10 years? Get down the lingo, the dress, everything. 10 years? A long time. It's a long time. Especially we've been in Jewish communities, which is, I think, the single biggest problem that people face is moving to a Jewish community. Okay. Right? But 10 years, that's an obvious question. It's an obvious question. It's not like they're trying to be pushy. They're trying to be nosy. They want to see commitment. Okay, very good. You're up, you're down, you're here, you're there. 10 years, how can someone show that they're serious? If they have good reason, okay. I'll talk, I'm not talking about where someone doesn't have a good reason. They can have a good reason. Not saying not. A lot of things that prevent a person from converting in general is money. They can't move. It's one of the problems, right? One of the main problems, right? But they also understand that. They understand that. So, if it takes longer, they're going to ask the question. 100% they're going to ask the question, right? And again, it's not a based in that, oh, they're looking for things, they're being obnoxious, they're this, and no, they want to see. They want to see the serious of a person. What's the obvious thing? If you're really serious, you really want to convert, what have you been doing? What have you been doing over the last number of years? Because time goes by very quickly. The older you get, it goes much quicker. Right? The younger, it's like time seems to go by, very slow. You get older, they say, one day you wake up, you're all great. Like, what happened? Right? So it happens. Very good. But they're going to ask the question. So it's not like they don't have a right to ask that. They have every right to ask it. Because they want to see the seriousness of a person. They have to see, are they going to do what they need, they need to do? Here it looks kind of bad. We got a number of years, let's say 10 years, a good example. Yeah, 10 years. So, what stopped the person? raises the flag, red flag. 100% raises the red flag. Now, if they have legitimate reasons why, good. Then they're not going to think about it. But, if they think, well, maybe they're not so serious, maybe they're flipping, they're up, they're down, they're this, they're that, they want to see a person's committed. They want to see a person's committed. Now to say, I could have done this, could have done that, then COVID hit. Okay. So 2 years down the drain. Not going to convert someone over Zoom. Right. But, that's a legitimate excuse. A person had a major illness, legitimate excuse. Financial issues, major excuse. These are things to understand. But, if a person's kind of wishy-washy, they're like, yeah, well, I was into it, and then I wasn't. I got back on track, and I got lost, and I did, that doesn't look so good. They have to show. They have to show commitment. Well, hey, I'm right here now. Okay. So that's good. The person moved. That's good. Right? A lot of people don't stick, even if they want to convert, even if they do move. Less than 20%, so based on understand, but they want to see commitment. Right? Again, they're not doing this to be nosy and push people away. They got plenty of reasons why they can push people away. Yeah, but that's not the case here. They have a legitimate question. Doesn't have to be 10 years, it could be 5 years. Right? And someone told me a story of the person living in the Jewish community, and they could have, they were there taking classes longer than the student of mine. They still haven't converted. So I said, so why not? So what happened? They said, yeah, they come, they don't come. They feel like showing up, they don't feel like showing up, and no commitment. Right? So that I understand. They're not going to really take them so seriously until they see. That makes sense. But if someone's been in the process a long time and they haven't converted, that's a major red flag. Right? So it's not like, oh, Basin just looking for something. Yeah. That's what people tell me. They're just looking for something. They're nitpicking. They're not nitpicking. Basin has a huge responsibility when someone converts. When they sign off on it, the person goes off, let's say, even if it's a valid conversion, they get all the transgressions. Someone teaches them, they could transgress the prohibition of, teaching someone's not fitting, which is always the question. You don't know how people are going to turn out. It's always the risk. Right? It's always the risk. But if, they get the right training, they get the right knowledge, that shouldn't happen. Especially, if they ask questions, when they have difficulty and they get helped along the way. That shouldn't happen. I'm not saying it can't, right? It certainly can. But, at the same time, Basin has a huge responsibility. So we mentioned many times, if they're corrupt, they do things they shouldn't do and this and that. Good. They shouldn't do it. That's forbidden. Okay. Does it happen? It can happen. 100% it can happen. And sometimes they can be flippant. So, someone told me a story, which, I'm not so surprised. I'm just going to roll. A certain Basin, and just like, okay, why do you want to convert? What do you want this? Like, we're so interested. It didn't seem so caring, so to speak. Again, that could happen. Again, I'm not saying it's right that people should feel like they're blown off. It can happen. But as we always say, you gotta have thick skin. You gotta have very thick skin. And if you don't have thick skin, across the board, you won't finish. You'll be a statistic like everybody else, like the 80% that don't finish. You have to warn it. King Solomon says, Torah is something, says in Proverbs, Torah is something you're going to want more than gold, silver, diamonds, rubies. You're going to want it more. 100% is one of the three things very hard to acquire. Torah, right? Olam Haba, the next world, and the land of Israel, right? Three things very hard in this world. You want Torah, you're going to want it more than anything else. More than anything else means more than anything else. In other words, that's to be the single most important thing in your life. And if someone would tell you, like someone told me many years ago, it's like, come on, you like, secular Jew says this, you like to pray all day, I like to play golf. Kind of problem with that comparison. Because let's say, in the morning, during the week, how long a service is in the morning? 40 minutes, 45 minutes, depending if you read the Torah or not. The afternoon, evening service, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, especially if you know how to read Hebrew. That's not all day, right? But Torah is your life. That's it. It is 100% your life. There's nothing more important than Torah. I have a student, parents would say, come on, is there anything more important than God? You know what the answer is? No. There's nothing more important. When I wake up in the morning till I go to sleep at night, what I think matters, right? What I say matters. How I dress matters. All these things matter. They're all crucial. They're all crucial. Every last thing. I make blessings. I pray. Which shoes I tie first when I put them on. These things matter. People think, come on, really think God cares if, I rip toilet paper, on Shabbos? Well, if you got warned not to do it, and there was a Jewish Supreme Court of Sanhedrin, and get death penalty, I think that's pretty severe. Obviously, God cares, right? But you don't want to get caught up in the details. You got to understand why you're doing it and what the purpose is. Then you can understand why there's a severity. There's a severe punishment. Okay. But it's all encompassing. And it has to be all encompassing. Because if it's not all encompassing, then we're like the millions of people, billions of people in the world that are brain dead. That's what it is. We're like everybody else. Right? The Jewish people are singled out. We chose God, God chose us. Right? We're supposed to be the cherished nation. Right? The Am Segula. Right? The chosen nation. Right? We chose God, God chose us. Very good. A lot of responsibility. Tremendous amount of responsibility. We got to take it serious. I've heard many non-Jews say, I'd love to convert, but, I'm so afraid because it's a huge responsibility. My answer always is I wish more Jews would take that responsibility. And would think about that. And think about what responsibility is to be a Jew, to be out there looking like a Jew and having secular Jews see you, non-Jews see you. And that they all should say the same thing. Thank God his rabbi taught him Torah. Thank God his parents taught him Torah. You want to make a sanctification of God's name. So people say, well, there are a lot of Jews out there that don't, even if they're Orthodox. Good. So we're our own worst enemy. That means they never internalize the message. Doesn't mean we're perfect. Does not mean we're perfect by any stretch. And if people say racist things, it's wrong. Period. No, you're not defending it. It's wrong. 100% wrong. And there can be, Orthodox Jews in certain fields and giving the Jewish people a bad name, like, they'll say all Jews are like this or like that because, that the people are, I would say like snarky, right? Or not even snarky. It's not the right word. Whatever. They see people. They lie. Come on, rabbi, it's business. Yeah. You get caught, makes you look a lot worse. You don't get caught, God will take care of you. Right? Either way. But you make a desecration of God's name, not in the literal sense, it's bad. But those are going to say, people do it. If people get accused, then you're right. Compared to the masses, it's negligible, even though, it happens and there are more cases of it. Okay. Bigger scheme of things, okay. Compared to the rest of the world, we're not really in those statistics, but again, it never should happen. Should never happen. So we have an evil inclination, right? We have an evil inclination. We do things we shouldn't do. And when a person gets caught, when a person, an Orthodox Jew gets caught, it looks worse. It looks 10 times worse. If a secular Jew gets caught, okay, everyone gets blamed because, as we say, there's, what do you call it? It's collective punishment. But to say, okay, so what do you expect? Secular Jew lives like a non-Jew. They don't keep Torah and mitzvahs. Their soul is totally corrupted. Yeah, so what do you expect? So they're more like a non-Jew than a Jew. Okay, an Orthodox Jew shouldn't be like that. So we shouldn't be like that, right? They'll say, you should know better. Very good. Should. But see, secular Jew does something wrong. No one bats an eyelash. No one says anything. An Orthodox Jew does it? Okay. Why is that worse? I remember, I was at a Kiruv convention, with the, a lot of secular Jews there. So there was Friday night we had like a Ask the Rabbi session. So the question we had to deal with was, if you read the newspaper, I don't know if people still read newspapers, but if you read the newspaper, an Orthodox Jew, did something wrong or got convicted or accused of something, how do you react? Right? What's the reaction? So we basically all agreed you condemn the action, not the person. Right? You condemn the action. I'll tell you, if you're ever speaking anywhere, make sure you have like a whole bunch of things to say, because if you're like third or fourth, everyone can take the wind out of your sails, so to speak. So which exactly what happened to me. Two people got up to speak, said every last thing I was gonna say. Every last thing. So, I kind of had to think quick. So one of the things I said, you read a headline, dog bites man. I don't know. Anybody going to be interested? Probably not. You say man bites dog? That's a story, right? That's a story. So you say an Orthodox Jew got convicted of something or got accused of something? Yeah, it's a story. Shouldn't happen. It happens more because we're more out there. Okay, but nonetheless, not a common occurrence. Certainly not a common occurrence. Yeah. Again, even if it's on the rise compared to the rest of the Orthodox Jews, I'm not saying where they don't get caught or whatever. I'm saying in general, people are law-abiding citizens. That's what they do. That's what we should do. You got bad eggs. People think they can do what they want, drive like they want. I mean, you go to an Orthodox community like 10 minutes before, 10 minutes before sundown and see people driving around like maniacs. I'm not, not gonna say that's okay. Right. But, people in a rush, this, that, they get delayed. Okay, doesn't give you the right to put people's lives in danger. Right. For sure not. I don't think it's just here in Israel. I think it's everywhere. Yeah, it's definitely everywhere. Or I used to live in New Jersey, it's definitely like that. So it's not, we're not singling out one place. So I'm getting to like, prepare earlier, make sure you don't do that, whatever. What gives you the right? What gives you the right to put people's lives in danger, to drive like a maniac? I can understand. Listen, you got to go to the hospital, this, that. Okay, it's precaution for saving a life. Even so, where it's not the case, or do you have to abide by traffic laws? I say, come on, how many people drive 35 miles an hour, right? Or 15 kilometers, whatever it is, in a school zone. Good. Where there's nobody coming. There are no buses and no kids. Okay, I get it. So certain things, okay, you're not gonna go according to every last thing, but it's not against the law. Technically, isn't against the law. Against the law. How many people really late at night? Let's say they're out 1, 2 in the morning. They're at a red light. Right? It's a good theoretical question there. Right? Good ethical question there. They're at a red light. They don't see anybody coming either direction for miles. Forget about getting carjacked and who knows what. Not worried about that. Right? Where they are safe. Yeah. 1 o'clock in the morning is a red light. You have to go through it? It's not a suggestion. A red light's not a suggestion. Here, before the light turns green, it turns red, then yellow. It's like red, yellow, green. Right? Then it turns green. So people, obviously totally impatient, which probably can't imagine by Israelis, right? But they're already beeping by the time it's red, yellow, but it didn't turn green. They're honking their horn. Like, where do you like me to go? Where do you like anyone to go? You can't drive, right? But good. If the law of the land is a red light, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't tell me that the law of the land doesn't tell me I'm allowed to go through it because there's nobody there. And it's late at night. Doesn't even tell me if I'm in danger. Well, if you're in danger, it's probably a different issue. Yeah, probably a much different issue. Well, I think there's no danger. No one around. No one around. Am I allowed to go through it? No. And if you get caught, yes, you get fined. Yeah, probably have what do you call it? Probably have cameras around anyway. So, even if you don't think you're going to get caught, they'll mail you a bill. They'll mail you a bill for doing it. But okay. So who said you're allowed to do it? But you're not causing damage to anyone. So what? Yeah. No one's getting hurt. Good. You're allowed to do it? Still not allowed to do it. Right? Still forbidden. Well, law of the land. All right, someone's gonna say, come on, you know, there's no one around. Good. So what? We gotta be impeccable all the time. Even if we wouldn't necessarily do it for ourselves. What we don't want people saying anything. Anything all over social media, people getting trashed, Jews getting trashed all over the place. Israel's getting trashed, Jews are getting trashed all over the place. We don't want to give anyone any impetus, nothing. They shouldn't have anything to say. You say anti-Semites will find things. Okay. Yeah, but I'm not even talking about that. They find things. Good. And they're not true. Fine. They don't give them any fodder for anything. For anything. Yeah, the videos going around, you have these, these in Torah Carta, these, quote unquote, ultra Orthodox Jews burning the Israeli flag and anti-Zionists and sucking up to all the, Muslims or whatever, saying, yeah, Israel shouldn't exist, blah, blah, this and that. Okay, like a bunch of wackos. Nobody holds with them. Nobody holds with them. Doesn't make us look bad? Oh, yeah. Nobody holds with them. Yeah, so, that question's come up. So what about them? What about them? They don't represent Judaism no matter how they look. They take, they go to Iran, take pictures with Ahmadinejad, Simach Shemoy V'Zichroy. May rot, wherever he is. Yeah, kind of makes us look bad now. Suck up to Arafat, suck up to other monsters, so to speak. That's pretty bad, right? Gives a bad name. But what's the simple answer? They don't represent us. They're wackos, right? Total wackos. All right. Somebody here asks. When does I have to see you? Okay. Someone says, no Jewish community around, raised secular, far from any Jewish community. Okay, better get out of Dodge at some point, right? You want to be, you want to act like a Jew, be a Jew, even if you're born Jewish, right? You got to be amongst Jews. And at some point, you feel lost. Where to begin? Oh, good question. Good question. I'd say the first thing to start doing is keeping kosher, right? Whatever you can do. Means you don't eat meat, and start keeping Shabbos. So yeah, there are websites. You can go to h.com or chabad.org. Right, go there and start learning. Go there and start learning. There's a lot of good information. A lot of information. Why would we say those are the two most important things to start with? One is kashrus, because want to be able to listen to Torah, want to be able to hear Torah, you got to get that garbage out of your system. And Shabbos represents the fact that God created the world, right? Because Friday night we read Genesis chapter beginning of chapter 2, right? We stand up when we say it because it's like giving testimony. The fact that the God stopped creating, right? Created the Sabbath, stopped creating. Essentially stopped creating. So it's like you're giving testimony to the fact that God's in charge and runs the world, right? Those two things are crucial. But yeah, you start with that. It's a lot of things. Start reading the Torah from the beginning, from Genesis. Even if you just read it very quickly, just get understanding, right, of what's going on, in the history of the Jewish people. Start reading the Torah portion of the week, whatever language a person understands. Getting to see the history of the Jewish people. This is a big parsha this week, right? Talk about 10 commandments, right? Giving over the 10 commandments. Pretty big. So those are good places. Those are good places to start. But there's a story that I read recently. I don't know, not so recent, but recent enough, that there was a woman 90 years old, not a Jewish woman, 90 years old, becomes religious, starts keeping Shabbos. 90 years old. Yeah. How much longer does she have to live? Good question. Yeah, it's relatively healthy, as far as as far as I know. But came to be observant at the age of 90. There's hope. Hope for anybody. If people say, yeah, I never learned, I never grew up with it. Okay, so what? Person can be in their 30s, person can be in their 40s, older. As someone that came out of Christianity, was learning Hebrew, came to this passage in Isaiah about, quote unquote, immaculate conception, found out it was a mistranslation. Boom, right? Want to convert at the age of 68. Imagine all those years being lied to. A person can just give up hope and say, listen, it's too late for me. It's never too late. Never too late for anyone. A person, the Gemara says, even if a person would have the sword against their neck, God can still have mercy. You might die. You could die, but God can have mercy. It's never too late. You can always look back, and say, like my rabbi would say, listen, if you think about the past and you live in the past, there is no future. Right? The reason is, oh, I'm too old, I can't learn, it's hard to learn Hebrew. When you get older, it's hard to learn language. Yeah, it's true. Right? That's true. Change your life is hard. Right? There's no question. Right? There's absolutely no question. At the same time, right? At the same time, it doesn't matter. Right? It's it doesn't matter. Right? The fact is you gotta start somewhere. Right? So someone here says that, yeah, many family members die, have died, so you've drawn closer. You're drawn closer. So, that's good. I think it's a sad statement that, everybody knows. We all know, we're going to die. Nobody knows when, right? King David says in the book of Psalms, right? He says in the book of Psalms that you get 70 years. If you have strength to get 80 years, everything after that is a bonus. But people don't die. Not everyone dies at the age of 70. Some people die older, some people die younger. Some people, have sicknesses, other things. I remember say, why do people die at different ages? They die at different ages so people repent. Because everyone died at the same age, no one would repent. Nobody would repent. Right? So so some, I'll tell a story. Somebody here, somebody in my neighborhood, they 24 years old, right? I guess it's oil on the road. Car spun around, went straight into a bus. Bus flattened the car. It's just whatever, passed away. 24. Recently married, one child. No answers. I mean, there's one answer. The one answer is God took him. Why? That I can't answer. We don't know. That's tragic. But what's the purpose of all these things that we see and we hear? It's to wake us up. 100% to wake us up. Right? We mentioned many times. God will make something happen around you to get you to think, get you wanted to repent. He said, if that doesn't work, what happens? God will hit you in the pocket. You lose money. Right? He'll hit you in the pocket. If that doesn't work, God hits you in the body. Makes you sick. Commentaries ask, why does God hit you in the body first? Why doesn't he attack you first? The hardest way, because he has mercy. He wants you to get the message without that. Right? You see things around you that, God can say, okay, I'm going to wait around. Let's see. Let's see the person wakes up. Okay. They don't wake up. They don't wake up from it. God says, okay, so I have to take you personally. And where does the person get hit the worst, I guess, besides the body, is losing money. Yeah, it's getting hit in the pocket. So, okay, that should wake a person up. 100%. That should wake a person up. If that doesn't work, God has to hit in the body. 100%, he has to hit you in the body. And then a person realizes, like, you're not in control. Right? You're totally not in control. But people don't wake up from that either. People say, woe to me. I'm sick and I can't move and I can't this and I can't that. The Mabits, one of the great commentators more than 100 years ago, 200 years ago, in his book Beis Elokim, literally the house of God, not translated, but in the gate of repentance, he says unbelievable thing. He says, if a person's suffering, If a person's suffering and they don't acknowledge the suffering is coming from God because of sin, they don't get atonement for it. Suffering's a huge thing. We don't want suffering. Nobody asks for suffering. No one wants trials and tribulations, but suffering can take away a lot of sin, right? So in this case, the Mabit says, but you have to acknowledge when a person suffers, why are they suffering? It's not random. It's not flippant. It's not any of these things. It's because of sin. Normally, that's the case. A brother won't say, well, it might be what my soul has to go through in reincarnation and different things. No, right? Let's say, for whatever reason, we did whatever we did wrong. A month ago, a week ago, yesterday, whatever. God has a certain level of, compassion, and eventually, there's going to be payback, 100%. It's going to be payback. But, there's a wake-up call. The question is, does the person see it? So it's pretty amazing. Two people can see the same thing, and they'll interpret it in different ways, totally different ways, right? I asked somebody once, I was going to write a book on people who came back to Judaism, right? Became Orthodox Jews. So I asked somebody that became religious in his mid-30s, and his kids became religious, and and his wife and whatever. So I asked him, tell me the story. What happened? So he said, that's not the question. What was the question? He said, my siblings and I saw the same thing. Why did I go one way, they went another? It's a good question. Then I have to interview the siblings and see how come they didn't see the same thing. People see what they want to see, right? People don't want to change. People want to keep to the same desires. There would be people that, they find out it's true, they won't change, right? One person I met that was intellectually honest over the last 30 years, right? One person. He said, if I, was married to a non-Jew, he said, if I look into it and I have to change my life, I'm not willing to do it. So I'm not going to look into it. Okay, that person was honest, intellectually honest. Everyone would tell me, come on, it's Webster's fifth definition. Intermarriage really isn't so bad. Maybe it only meant that generation. Maybe the generation going to the land of Israel, this, that. Okay, but, God says, it's not something you should do. It says it's a bad thing. Yeah, in general. In general. But this person said, if I look into it and I have to change, I'm not willing to change. So therefore, I'm not going to look into it. Okay, that person 100% is honest. Everyone else is a bunch of jokers. They'll give me, Webster's eighth definition. No, it really means this, and I can interpret it this way. And someone once said, I don't have to answer that question. You're a fanatic. I said, of course I'm a fanatic. Called a lot worse. I said, so what's the answer though? You tell me it's a medrash I never heard of, maybe the Gemara I never heard of, maybe something in Tanakh. I'm open. I'm open to hear. So I don't have to answer you. You're a fanatic. Well, that's not an answer. Right? That's for sure not an answer. You can tell me, oh, I don't think it means this. Oh, I think, I said I'm open to interpretation. Let's see. But they knew I had to. So, I didn't convince them. But we can agree to disagree. See, if you're in a debating team, you get an F. That's not how you debate. I was like, you can show me information. Be more than happy to look at information. Right? Do it on a daily basis. So why not? Right? But most people are not intellectually honest. Most people. Right? Most people. So the question is, what we see, does it affect us? Is it going to affect us? Someone asked, the suffering always indicates I'm sinning. I'm sinning. Suffering is a test. It's an absolute test. It can either be what you're going through, what you've done. It can also be what your soul has to go through. It has nothing to do with you. Right? Reincarnation. Most likely it's for what we've done. You're going to say, what about Job? Job was tested. Now, can a person be tested with suffering? Can also be a test. Right? I'll give an example. Imagine a person's cruising through life. Everything is good. They don't have health issues. They don't have livelihood issues, let's say. And God says, okay, I want to test them. I want to take away something, see how they're going to react. You don't need something to, Mr. S, the evil inclination, whatever. God can do it to a person. Why is he going to make him suffer? To see what he's going to do. Didn't the Imahot, you had Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, They had trouble conceiving, having children. So commentaries say, why? Because God loves the prayer of the righteous. And you say, what, God's fickle? God's going to make people suffer so he can hear them pray from the depth of their heart. But, if everything was going good and the person, livelihood's good, kids are good, family's good, like health is good, all these good things. So they pray the same when, they got 3 bills to pay in 2 days. They have no idea where the money's coming from. I don't think so. I definitely don't think so. They're going to pray, with a lot more fervor. Why? Because they know they're in trouble. They know they can't, you got to put your best foot forward. True. Right. But they know, there's only God out there. Right. So suffering I would say most likely is for what we do, for bad actions that we do. Suffering can also be a test. Maybe we didn't do anything wrong per se, which I highly doubt it. It could be a test to see how we're going to react. Or it could be because this is what our soul has to go through. Meaning the soul came back in order to get fixed up for whatever it did wrong, so it has to go through certain things in this world. We can't pinpoint what that is. Nobody knows. Right? When a person's born, they forget about everything in the past life. Even though people say if people are under hypnosis, deep hypnosis, right, through regression, they can recount past lives. Now, one of my rabbis was a memory who was very much steeped in Kabbalah, says that should not happen in this world. According to Kabbalah, that can't happen. You'll never remember what you're doing in this world. Right? The soul will never remember in this world. No such thing as deja vu, and all that doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Now, based on that, since the soul doesn't know, right? So what about deep regression? They have shown, and there are studies that someone who's under deep hypnosis could recount previous life. So, so that's, one of my rabbis about this, he didn't have an answer. He said, according to Kabbalah, it shouldn't be able to happen. Now, one answer, maybe, you take this with a grain of salt, because, I don't know if it's true. But if we're talking about where the soul itself will not remember, previous lives, like when a person's awake, they're not going to remember. They're for sure not going to remember. It's not one of these bad, Nightmare on Elm Street movies, Freddy Krueger. You're not going to remember while you're awake. If you're asleep, and there's like deep hypnosis, maybe. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe. Right? Maybe that would be the case. Maybe that would be the case. Yeah, that you could remember based on that. That's only if you're in deep hypnosis. If you're awake, that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. So someone asked, was Job tested by God or by Satan? Well, the Satan brought it up, and God said, okay, test him. God wasn't going to test him. God allowed him to test him. You got to remember, Satan can't do anything. He is an angel. He can't do anything outside what he's commanded to do. Right? He can, his goal is try and make people sin. And he takes people's lives when God tells him to. So in the end, God says, okay, test him. Now, does that mean God wanted him to be tested? They can say, yeah, God wanted him to be tested, but he wouldn't have tested him before. In the end, he said, okay, test him. Right? He's not going to blaspheme. Right? No matter what you do to him, but you can't kill him. So you see, God acquiesced and God said, okay, do it. Was God going to originally do it? No. But he allowed him to do it. So he let him do it. When will one stop being reincarnated? Today. Most souls today coming out are all reincarnated souls. Right? So person's not coming back. Usually a person come back 3 times. Someone explained to me 3 times or possibly a 4th time. That's it. So most people today are all reincarnated souls. Usually we're all reincarnated souls. When does that stop? I would say, people being born, that's it. It's the last chance. If a person dies, today, tomorrow, next day, month, years down the line, most likely, my guess would be that soul's never coming back. Right? And it should have a merit to get up a resurrection of the dead, but it will not come back. Why not? Because we're at the end. Right? The Gemara says, at the end of Sanhedrin says, all the souls, in order for the Messiah to come, all the souls have to come up. All the souls under God's heavenly throne, whatever that means, they have to be in this world in order for the Messiah to come. So, so imagine, all the countries doing, so many abortions. Souls have to come out, not to be aborted. They have to come out. It take longer for the Messiah to come. But anyway, we have to get to the year 6,000. To get to the year 6,000, the Messiah has to come either way. Then the world gets destroyed, and then it's resurrection of the dead, right? Seemingly it's resurrection of the dead after that. Whoever merits it. But this is it. Anyone who's born now and after however long they're alive in this world, my guess is, again, it's my opinion, but I think it's true from what I understand, my guess is the soul's not coming back. That's it. This is the last hurrah, as we would say. The last hurrah. Why do I say we're at the end? Because if you, according to the Jewish calendar, right, we have another 200 so on years to the year 6,000. So since we have 200 years and change to the year 6,000, it means this is it. This should be, again, when's the Messiah going to come? I think Messiah is very close, right? Come in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, whatever it is, has to come within 200 years. So my guess would be the fact that the end is getting closer, right, and getting much closer for the Messiah to come. So my guess would be whatever souls are coming, that's it. In other words, if a person died in between, most likely they're not coming back because of the time frame from when the world was created. Now, someone can, pin me down and say, well, if a person dies, maybe they could come back, right? Before the year 6,000, maybe. A possibility, right? I'm not throwing out the possibility. I just don't think it's going to happen. Because we're much closer to the end of days. But since we're much closer to the end of days, I would think it wouldn't make sense for the soul to come back. It could. Well, again, I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying I don't think it will be. Because we're so close to the end. And again, the end means that we're getting closer to the year 6,000. How could you possibly know people maybe live 3 or 4 times on Earth? So yeah, you wouldn't normally know that, except that if someone is steeped in Kabbalah and they learn Jewish mysticism, that's what it seems to say. I'm not an expert in Kabbalah, so I'm just repeating what someone who's was much bigger than me in learning, will always be much bigger than me in learning, that person's no longer in this world, right? But was learning Kabbalah for many years, probably 30 years, more than 30 years. So if they tell me, and they did, they told, this rabbi told me that according to Kabbalah, that's what Kabbalah says. Take his word for it. Right? That's my answer. Now, does he know the source of every soul? And look into someone's eyes and say, oh, they came back for this, they came back for that? No. Rabbi Isaac Luria could do that more than 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago, right? With a major commentary on the Zohar. Okay, but he's on a different level. He could look at a person's forehead and tell them what sins they did, right? We don't have anybody like that today. Yeah, we don't have anyone at that level, not even close, right? But again, if someone has learned Kabbalah for many, many years, and they tell me that's what the Zohar says, I have no reason to doubt it, right? That's what was explained. I'm just repeating what was explained to me. When people resurrect, will the last body there be there? Good question. Very, very good question. Some say that again, as was explained to me, the body that helped it the most reach its perfection, reach its potential, that's the body that'll get up. That's the body to get up at resurrection. So, we don't know. Essentially, we don't know which body it's going to be. It's not necessarily going to be the same type of body we have now. But regardless, as was explained to me, and I've read it in different places also. I don't recall offhand where, but I do remember, or maybe someone explained it to me, that it's going to be that. Sorry, possibly it could be that whatever body where that soul is reincarnated, could be reincarnated 3 times, 4 times, whatever it is. Whenever that soul is in the body, whatever body helped it reach its potential more than any other body, that's the body gets up to resurrection. God will resurrect that body also. Now, again, is that the absolute truth? I can't tell you. Right? That I can't tell you. That is another question. If a person was married, married more than once, right? Which what happens to his wife? Yeah. Or let's say he got divorced. Well, divorce is easier. Let's say his wife died, right? Spouse died. They get resurrected together. Like, I don't know. Good question. Right? Which one? So I guess it would have to be the one that, that was really the soulmate. God's gonna have to judge that. Well, is it a person married to the soulmate? Maybe. I mean, it should be. That's what we normally would say. But obviously, if you marry the wrong person, that's not true, right? Because the person's only half a soul, right? And this is the problem within the marriage, because if a person's half a soul, so when a Jew marries another Jew, that soul becomes complete. Now they can get divorced, they could get ruined, whatever, but that soul is now complete. When they marry a non-Jew, what happens? Right? And this is one aspect, and this is the matrix, right? Why do I say it's a matrix? Because now imagine, I shouldn't say imagine. I read this book by Ivari Kaplan of blessed memory. It's called Made in Heaven. It's a book about marriage. I never got past the introduction because he says, a person gets married, doesn't affect you, affects your spouse, affects your kids, affects your grandkids. I'm like, who, me? Slam the book shut. That was it. That's as far as I got. So now, why don't we call it the matrix? So if a person married a non-Jew, married a non-Jew. So what happened to the other half of the soul? The other half of the soul, now God has to reorchestrate and put it together with a different soul. Yeah? What about all the kids they were supposed to have? That's only one. That's only one. So imagine today, Jewish people into marriage, 50 to 60%, if not higher. So imagine 6 out of 10 people, that's why I call it the matrix, 6 out of 10 people into marriage. So now, those half Jewish souls, where are they? They're all messed up now. So now God has to reconnect them with somebody else. Yeah. But what about all those kids they were supposed to have? Either they're supposed to have 2 kids or 1 kid or whatever. So what happened to that soul? Totally messed up. That's why I call it the matrix. Yeah. That's not what's supposed to be. And that you need major supercomputers to trace that. I was only talking about 1 case. Yeah, but you get 6 out of 10 cases, that's major damage. Major damage. Somebody asked, how can I tell I've lived before? You won't. There's no possible way to know what your previous life was in this one. You'll never know. Again, if you went under deep hypnosis and regression, yeah, maybe your past life comes out. I can't answer that. That shouldn't be according to Kabbalah, right? But if you're wide awake and you're walking around, you'll never know. Impossible. But I would say, though, that because we're so close to the end of days and getting closer to the year 6000, most souls coming out today, anyone who's born, is not a new soul. Now you can say, how do I know? You don't know. I mean, that's my guess. as someone explained to me in Kabbalah. That's my guess. Can you say, how would I ever know? You wouldn't. Nobody would know. Nobody would know. I told, this rabbi of mine was steeped in Kabbalah. I said, yeah, if I ever get a hold of my Gilgul, that reincarnated soul, I'm going to grab him and say, why'd you do this? He said, if you looked at him in the face, you wouldn't recognize him. I'm like, that's not the point. He's like, no, that is the point. Yeah, that is the point. You'll never know. Right? You'll never know. Say someone's married 2 different people, 2 different lives. Yeah. Both the wives were original and faithful to Hashem. When resurrection happens, whose husband is it? Yeah, it's a good question. Don't know. Right? That's a good question. Right? We said, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who they're going to be with in the end. If both they are really their soulmates, then who gets up with them? I don't know. Who's going to be with them? Good question. Good question. I don't have an answer. One of the things I have to, find out later, I guess, if we make it. But yeah, don't know. Somebody asks, 1 second. Other signs that help us know we are at the end. Yes. Gemara and Sota at the end of Sota gives us 15 signs. 15 signs that we're close to the end of days. I think actually I did a webinar on that about the end of days. I think I went through most of them. Whatever, I'll remind myself, send it to you when I find it. But there are clear-cut signs. Right? One of the signs, is it's going to be more chutzpah in the world. I don't think there's been, again, previous generations, I can't say where I lived or whatever, but like the level of chutzpah today, people do, even to parents and whatever, is unimaginable. Previous generations. There was a time where kids actually respected their parents, like had fear of their parents. Today you can't say that. Where everyone's, when he was younger, his mother came to visit. They were on a bus, and they heard a secular kid say, Abba Shali Chamor, my father's a donkey, and they couldn't imagine how could a kid say that about a father. I'm not talking about abuse and other things, whatever. Even so, right? Even so, I'm not saying you have to, honor them, maybe respect them, whatever, some level, right? We're not going there, but what's the point? Say a person's father is a chamor, it's a donkey. They didn't do anything wrong, right? My assumption. They didn't do anything wrong, per se. They just look at him as a donkey. So, Mary's mother's like, how could anyone speak about a parent? How in the world would someone be that chutzpah speaking about a parent? They brought you into this world. You owe them, karas tov, gratitude. Okay, people tell me abuse, other things. Okay, I'm not going there, but I'm just saying in general, child can say that about a parent. Kids will always say, "Oh, parents don't understand us. It was different generations and this and that." In Orthodox communities, kids have a lot of respect for the previous generation. A lot of respect. Someone told me, parents, when they talk about the grandkids, only talk about their religious kids' grandkids, their kids. But they don't say, "Oh, it has to do with Torah." Of course, it has to do with Torah because they're taught that from a very young age. Respect their elders. I love getting on a bus and it's crowded. People say, "Oh, sit down over here," because I look old. They see the gray beard. I'm like, okay, I'll sit. I'm not that old. Still, people have respect because it's, you're linking a chain going back to giving the Torah Mount Sinai. It's a famous story of Yaakov Kamenetsky, bless him, everyone, the Torah giants, the last generation, was on a plane, and he was on a plane with his grandkids, some of his grandkids or whatever. And they're like, it's 80, Grandpa, can I get you this? Can I get you that? And we're sitting next to this secular guy, and he's like, how'd you get your kids to do that? It's like, the only time I ever hear from grandkids is birthday time, you want money, other things. So he said, I'll tell you the difference. He said, see, I'm a link in a chain that goes back, to giving the Torah Mount Sinai. So I'm a link in that chain. So I'm closer to give you the Torah Mount Sinai, so they have respect because, I'm a link in that chain. He said, your grandkids look at you as a monkey, right? Evolution. So they think you're a monkey. So they treat you like a monkey. Someone asks, a person dies and they go to Gehenna for a year, right? Hopefully not. Usually 11 months, but it could be a year also if they're really bad. Then they are reincarnated. Why they're reincarnated? Who says they're going to get reincarnated? If they get fixed up, this is, I would say a person's reincarnated before they get fixed up. Before they go to Gehenna to get purged of all their sins, they may be given a choice to come back to this world. They're not going to get purged of all their sins and then come back, usually. Because if they get purged, they're going to have their portion of the world to come. So why would they come back? Why would they want to come back? And in general, the soul doesn't want to be here anyway. God has to convince the soul and put it in the body. They'll give it an opportunity to come back, right? But I would think, and again, it's my opinion here, but I would think if the soul, has that portion of the world to come, right? Whatever that means, it gets purified and gets purged of all its sins, it wouldn't want to come back. Wouldn't want to be reincarnated. That's what I would say. The Jews get to connect extra parts of the soul in Eretz Yisrael. Oh, do they? And it's different. It's the same soul, but the soul feels things differently in the land of Israel because it's a holy place, the holiest place. Even though, you get devil worship here, and, biggest, gay and lesbian community in Tel Aviv or whatever. Okay, so you have the greatest amount of holiness against the greatest amount of impurity, right? You have to have them offset each other. Okay. But yeah, the soul has more of a connection because, you even though it's the same soul, but you're walking the path of your, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You go, anyone's ever been to Cave of the Patriarchs, it's, unbelievable because, you're living history. You're living what the Bible says. And, I got a friend of mine who's a tour guide. He goes to he goes all over and he's very into, very into Tanakh. So he's like going to the places where the Tanakh actually says, this is what was here. This is this is that. Yeah, you feel different. 100% you feel different. The non-Jews get it. No, I'd probably say if they convert, they wouldn't. But if not, I think they can feel the difference. I think any non-Jews that have ever been to Israel, if they go to Tel Aviv, Haifa, any of these other places, come to Jerusalem, they feel the difference. They also feel the difference. They also feel that spark. Right? I wouldn't say it's the same as a Jew, but they definitely can feel that also. Someone asked, "It's going to be marriage after we're resurrected." Good question. What's the answer? According to the Rambam, seems like it. Seems like you're not gonna have any inclination, right? In the person of the resurrection, right? So if you're gonna say like the Rambam, that's no difference between this world and that world. So who says that's not gonna happen? The only problem is the body's not a normal body that we think it is. It's not gonna be the same. We're not gonna have the same urges, right? And we're all gonna be doing God's will. So, if all the souls come out, well, you're gonna say, well, if all the souls are supposed to come out from under God's heavenly throne, whatever that means, then there won't be any need in the resurrected world for kids, for having kids, and having children. Would there be marriage? I don't know. There could be. Could be. Don't know. According to others, it wouldn't be. Because it's not going to be the same type of world. According to the Rambam, where it's not going to be any difference, pretty much. According to the Rambam, maybe. But, don't know. I've seen a lot of celebrities converting to modern Judaism. That means nothing. Rubbish, as the English would say. Come on, Sammy Davis converted. Right? Sammy Davis Jr. back in the day. Liz Taylor converted, supposedly. Think they were real conversions? Okay, you got Ivanka Trump. She had a real conversion. Okay, she's not an actor, right? Or actress or whatever. But any of these other, actors or whatever, garbage. Their conversions not worth anything. I don't believe for a second they took on the yoke of mitzvahs at all. They may mean well. Okay. Yeah, a real conversion? Nah, I don't think so. Don't think so. There's somebody that's the famous rapper that I don't know if he ever finished converting, or not. But I mean, yeah, listen, he's in black at a real conversion. Yeah. Okay, he was a rapper, right? But you have actors that have converted or whatever. But again, if you don't take on mitzvahs, then it doesn't help. If you went through a reform or conservative conversion, also not going to help, right? Because they don't keep Shabbos in public, they had status of a non-Jew. Can a non-Jew be on a base din? No, not discriminating. Non-Jew can't be on a base din, right? They can't be a rabbi in a base din. That's kind of contradictory in terms. Yeah. So that's a waste of time for these people. Again, they may mean well, but like I think a lot of people, not doing it for spiritual reasons per se. Maybe they are, but maybe doing it for marriage, maybe for other things, but it's not real, right? And definitely don't believe it's real. It's gonna go against their whole lifestyle, right? It's one of the problems this rapper had converting because he still wanted to give concerts and do what he wanted to do, and they wouldn't convert him because of it. I mean, I'm sure he probably found somewhere to convert, but based in here wouldn't convert him for that reason because he wouldn't listen to the rabbis. You don't want someone who looks like an Orthodox Jew, doing concerts and doing gangster rap. That like goes. I'm not into rap either way, right? But if you're gonna do the same thing and try and be the same person, that defeats the purpose of what you're doing. You want to do concerts in the right way, according to Torah, this and that. You could do it. You want to do it your own way? That's a problem. That is a problem. Someone asks, what should I do in these last days? Sure, they're right with God. Just keep what you're supposed to keep. Learn as much as you can. I would say even do things you're not necessarily obligated in that are, more, a moral, what do you call it? Whatever. It's a moral thing to do, not because you're obligated. Like work on not speaking Lashon Hara. Does that apply? No. What's a moral imperative? That's the word I was looking for. What's a moral imperative? I wouldn't do it. Should a no-eyed woman dress modestly? Yes. She has to dress modestly like a Jew? Not necessarily. But the moral imperative is a good thing. So things that I would say are moral imperative, yeah, I think a non-Jew should do. Obligated? No. Obligated? No. Right? Just stay on the right path, learn as much as you can, right? And and pray that God gives you proper guidance, right? Or you come in contact with people and give you the proper guidance, right? The thing you have to ask yourself, the most important question for Jew or non-Jew, wherever you're holding, is the question is, am I doing something that's going to help me in my relationship to God or not? Does this make me a better Jew or not? Or a better non-Jew? That's the question. If you have a doubt, don't do it. And if you have a doubt, ask somebody. Ask a competent Orthodox rabbi, should I do it? Am I allowed to do it? I'm not allowed to do it. How does Giyur Chumrah differ from a conversion for a non-Jew? It's totally different. Because a Giyur Chumrah is a stringent conversion where the person's probably already Jewish. Right? But maybe, let's say, they did a conversion many years ago, and that rabbi now is questionable. Now, does that mean the conversion wasn't good? No. Doesn't mean that per se. So then they would do a Gerus L'Chumrah. Or let's say they have an overwhelming amount of evidence that they're Jewish, but they but they're still not sure, so they convert them. They make it easier. There are cases. It's not an outright, conversion like they're coming out of nowhere and, no Jewish blood or, any other circumstances, right? But it's a conversion it's only done what we call a stringent conversion for the sake of that, you have a doubt, you just want to clear up. But technically, you don't really have to do it. You really don't have to do it. So that's a big difference. Someone says, so my friend, I may need to do this. If, your mother's Jewish, your grandmother's Jewish, or, buried 4 generations in a cemetery, you don't have to. right? That you wouldn't have to. If you don't have proof, then there are questions, and yeah, then you might have to, right? Then you might have to. Someone's having a hard time reading through Torah. What do I suggest? Take your time. Just take it in sound bites. Don't try and read everything at once. Read a little bit here, a little bit there. Look at some commentary, right? But take it slow. You don't have to read everything in one shot. Yeah, let me see. That's what I would suggest. Where's my okay. What if someone never gets married in this life or any life? How does that affect our afterlife? It's a mitzvah he didn't do. Right? What if a person never had children? Guy never had children. He's got a mitzvah to have children. A woman doesn't have a mitzvah to have children. She has to help, her husband have children. Very good. It's his mitzvah, not hers. Okay. What if he never had kids? Someone told me this, but never had kids. Wife can't have kids. Whatever, she get divorced and have kids. I said, is your marriage okay? He said, yeah. I said, anything wrong? He said, no. So I said, you don't have to. They weren't out from, Abraham and Sarah. That's 10 years. Wife doesn't have kids. He could divorce her. Right? He could divorce her, but I wouldn't tell people to do that. But it's a mitzvah he didn't do. Okay. So he didn't do it. You didn't do it. Do you have to? Let's say he's older. He's much older, his wife dies. Should he marry someone young and have kids? Try. Or even someone had kids and their wife dies. So try and marry someone younger and have kids. If they could. If they can't, they can't. Yeah. But again, it's like a mitzvah you didn't do. It's a mitzvah you didn't do. So how does that affect them? So the question is, if they were supposed to be with somebody and they're only half a soul, and that half a soul together, they didn't have any kids. What about, again, that's part of the matrix also, right? Where are those kids coming from now? Where are those souls going to come from? Good question. Yeah. What if you have people that were sterile, couldn't have kids? Right? I don't think they didn't want to have kids. Right? They couldn't have kids. There are people like that. How's it going to affect them? Good question. God could say, well, you didn't have kids, whatever. But he said, I know very, very well-known Torah family, Torah giants, all of them, and all the sons or most of the sons never had kids, couldn't have kids. Mind-boggling. Like, okay, so all the students were like their kids, but like they never had natural kids. They just, I don't know, some sort of problem. I don't know exactly what it was. But yeah, it's a mitzvah they didn't do. Right? Now, they married the right person. Right? Let's say they married the right person, very good, but they didn't have kids. Couldn't have kids. What a woman gets married, she can't have kids. It's impossible to have kids. Try this, try that, it's impossible to have kids. They didn't have kids. Right? There is an effect because they were supposed to have kids. Right? Or maybe. If they were supposed to have kids, and they didn't, so those kids have to come somewhere else. Those souls have to come somewhere else. It gets complicated. But if they couldn't, they tried. They did everything they could. It's not held against them. But God has to go through the matrix to figure out, okay, these souls are supposed to come out, but they didn't. So where are they supposed to come from now? It's a good question. Right? That's why God's like, 20 supercomputers all together, because we never figured that out. I mean, it's like statistically impossible. Right? So how's God going to put everyone together? Good question. God doesn't. Right? But yeah, it's a good question. What if brother wants to get married but can't? Yeah, it doesn't work with a non-Jewish partner. Jew's not possible. Stuck in conversion. You can't do it. Again, if you don't convert, it's okay. So you can marry non-Jews. Not an issue, right? Well, let's say you didn't convert and you married a non-Jew. Okay, right? If God thought you could convert, you didn't. Okay, you're going to be held accountable. But I'm not going to go there, right? If a person can't get married, they should. All right, what if they're stuck, this and that? God understands that, right? God understands the bigger picture. He understands that, right? So I would say, if they get stuck and they can't, God don't understand that, right? Unless you could have and you didn't. But if God understands because you were stuck or whatever, okay, right? He's going to take that into account. for sure. Yeah, it's a big mitzvah to get married for a guy and have kids. And if you didn't do it. But again, what do you do with the other half of the soul? What do you do with those souls that are supposed to come out from these two people? Okay, God has to work that out. But a person who was under onus and it couldn't happen, onus Rahmana Patre, onus, the Torah says you're exempt. So you'll be exempt, right? You'll be exempt. God's not going to hold that over your head. Someone here says, I believe I need to give you a chumrah because I don't have paperwork with my grandmother. Okay. So, so you have to go through it. Hypothetically, how would you feel if God told the prophets, tell you the earth is flat? He wouldn't. Prophet cannot go against, what the Torah says. Right? It wouldn't happen. Right? It wouldn't happen. If you have false prophets that they can do miracles, but they're false. Right? So even, if they tell you, if they can walk on water and do other things that show, miraculous things, very good, but they can also be false prophets because they're going to tell you not to do this or not to do that or believe in things that are wrong. So in theory, if someone did that, you don't believe him. Yeah, it's a mitzvah not to believe him. Not only that, you drag him to the Sanhedrin, you have him killed. It's a false prophet. Not easy to be a false prophet. Not easy to be a prophet. False prophet, yeah, we killed them straight away. Right? You can't have them running around. It causes a lot of problems. A lot of problems. That's why the Torah is so strict with them. Was Israel's daughter an idol worshiper or Jewish when she married? She converted. Considered a convert. Yeah, so you see, Moshe Rabbeinu married a convert. She wasn't Jewish. That's what people say. Come on, he married this Cushite woman. Right? Cush, But she converted though. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was easier. Right? It was easier because before the Torah was given, so you say they didn't have to be Jewish. Even though they passed on whatever they passed on, what Abraham passed on, to Isaac, Jacob, the Jewish people, Torah before the Torah was given. Right? Same way they kept before it was given, whatever that means. So yeah, it's a different issue. Very different issue. What's the main conversion before Matan Torah? Okay, that's a big question. Right, that's a big question. Simple answer is they kept, when against idolatry. They say that, they kept certain things of Shabbos, not all of Shabbos, not all the laws of Shabbos. Right? A lot of different a lot of different things. Probably a lot easier than today because what they you have that, let's say Abraham instituted the morning service. That's before the Torah was given, right? Isaac the afternoon service, Jacob at night, and other things. So conversion seemingly, that you look at Ruth. Ruth is the obvious case. My God is your God, right? I'll go with you. This, that. What level of conversion was it? Big discussion. It's a big discussion. Exactly what it was. But there had to be conversion, though. For sure, there had to be conversion. All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Israel Time. Anyone has any questions? Find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman at orthodoxconversion.com, Beyond Orthodox Conversion, the Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on Q&As, ethics for our fathers. Book of Leviticus, want to send me an email, rabbi.chaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHIMCOFFMAN at gmail.com. Wish you have a good day, middle of the day, end of the day, and